You're lying in bed at 1 a.m., and your brain is running a full committee meeting. You're replaying a conversation from 3 days ago, editing what you should have said, building 4 alternate versions of how it could have gone. And somewhere in the middle of that, you've accidentally solved a problem that doesn't even exist yet. You haven't slept, but you've thought through approximately 19 different outcomes of a situation that may never happen. And the person next to you? Out cold. 5 minutes flat. People have been calling this a problem your whole life. Your parents told you to stop overthinking it. Your friends told you to just relax. Every self-help article you've ever read treated your brain like a malfunction that needed correcting. But what nobody told you, what the research has quietly been saying for years, is that the thing everyone kept trying to fix about you is actually one of the rarest cognitive advantages a human brain can have. And once you understand what's really happening inside your mind, you will never see yourself the same way again. Let's start with what your brain is actually doing when everyone else thinks you're just spiraling. There is a network inside your brain that most people never fully activate. Neuroscientists call it the default mode network, a system of interconnected regions that switches on when you're not focused on the external world. When you're daydreaming, when you're lying awake at night, when you're in the shower replaying that conversation again. For most people, this network fires occasionally and quietly. For you, it is running almost constantly, at full volume, building connections between ideas that most minds never put in the same room together. Researchers at King's College London found that people who score high on a trait called intrinsic motivation to think, which is really just a scientific way of saying people who can't stop their brains, show significantly higher activation in exactly this network. And what does the default mode network actually produce when it's running at that level? Creative insight, novel associations, the ability to see a problem from an angle nobody else thought to look from. You were never broken. You were just running more software than most people knew existed. But there's a layer beneath this that almost nobody talks about. And it's the part that explains why your overthinking isn't just creativity. It's a specific kind of creativity that the world actually cannot function without. Psychologists have a name for what you do. It's called divergent thinking. The ability to take one idea and generate multiple possible directions, outcomes, meanings, and connections from it. Standard thinking is linear, A to B, problem to solution. Most people are very good at it, and it gets things done. But divergent thinking is what produces everything that didn't exist before someone imagined it. Every invention, every piece of art, every solution that made people say, "Why didn't anyone think of that sooner?" came from a mind that refused to stop at the first answer. A study published in Psychology of Aesthetics, Creativity, and the Arts found that high worriers, people whose minds habitually run multiple scenarios simultaneously, scored significantly higher on measures of creative thinking than their calmer counterparts. The same mental habit that keeps you up at night, the same loop that runs 17 variations of one conversation, is the exact mechanism that generates original ideas. You cannot have one without the other. The engine that overthinks is the engine that creates. They are not separate things. And here is where it gets fascinating. Your brain does not just think more. It thinks differently. Research from the University of Toronto found that overthinkers have what scientists call leaky sensory gating. Most brains automatically filter out information that isn't immediately relevant. Background noise, peripheral details, the 17 small things happening at the edges of a situation. Your brain doesn't filter as aggressively. It lets more in. And while that sounds exhausting, because honestly, sometimes it is, what it means in practice is that you are picking up signals, patterns, and possibilities that other people's brains literally never receive. You notice the shift in someone's tone before they've said anything important. You sense the problem in a plan 3 steps before it becomes visible. You catch the detail everyone else walked past. That's not anxiety. That's a finely tuned perceptual system doing something most people's brains are structurally unable to do. The world called it sensitivity. Science calls it expanded attentional breadth. And it is one of the foundational traits of the most creative minds ever studied. But there's something else. Something that the people who told you to just relax never understood about what happens inside your head. You don't just think about things, you feel your way through them. Overthinkers are almost universally high in a trait psychologists call emotional granularity, the ability to identify, distinguish, and name emotions with unusual precision. Where most people feel bad, you feel the specific texture of that particular disappointment, or that specific shade of anxiety that is different from yesterday's anxiety, or that complicated mixture of gratitude and guilt that doesn't have a clean word in English. That level of emotional resolution is not common, and it is not accidental. Dr. Lisa Feldman Barrett, one of the leading researchers in emotion science, has spent decades showing that emotional granularity is directly linked to creative output. The more precisely you can feel and name your inner world, the more material you have to work with. Writers, musicians, filmmakers, designers, the ones who make things that genuinely move people, are almost always people who feel at a resolution that most others don't. You have been building that capacity your entire life without knowing that was what you were doing. Every emotion you sat with instead of numbing. Every feeling you turned over and examined from every angle. Every night you lay awake and felt something completely instead of pushing it away. You were developing a sensitivity that most people never reach. And that sensitivity is exactly what makes your creativity different from ordinary creativity. It's not just original, it's resonant. It connects because you understand, at a level most people can't access, what it actually feels like to be a human being navigating something difficult. That understanding is where your best work comes from. It is where it has always come from. Now here's the part that might sting slightly before it becomes something better. The reason your overthinking has felt like a curse rather than a gift is not because the trait is wrong. It's because nobody taught you to aim it. A creative engine with no direction just spins. The same mind that can build worlds at 1 a.m. can also trap you in the same loop for hours going nowhere. The difference is not the brain. The difference is the target. Highly creative overthinkers who learn to direct their mental energy, to turn the committee meeting toward a problem worth solving, a story worth telling, a question worth exploring, consistently produce work that stops people cold. Not because they became different people, but because they finally understood what their brain was actually built for. You were not made to think less. You were made to think on purpose. And the people who spent years trying to calm you down, who handed you breathing exercises and told you to clear your mind, were not wrong to care. But they were solving for the wrong thing. The goal was never silence. The goal was direction. A river is not a flood. The same water, completely different thing, depending on whether it has banks. Your mind has always been the river. What you needed was never a dam. You needed to know where you were trying to go. So the next time your brain is awake at 1 a.m., running every possibility, building alternate versions of reality, catching the detail everyone else missed, understand what is actually happening. That is not a malfunction. That is a creative system doing exactly what it was designed to do. The world spent a long time asking you to be simpler than you are. You don't have to keep apologizing for a mind that was always, quietly, ahead. The overthinkers are not the ones who need fixing. They are the ones, more often than anyone realizes, who end up building the things that fix everything else. If this felt like something you needed to hear, subscribe and drop a comment below. I read every single one. I'll see you in the next one.